Hi, I'm Randy Hollenbeck, and this is the Music Roundtable. Today on the show, we have singer-songwriter Caleb Kopta.
How we doing today?
If I told you that I want you, could it be so bad? You could it be so bad? I'm just a kiss, I'm just a hug away. On a rainy day, won't you shine on me? Only shine on me. Yeah, all I ever do is wake up. I sleep and wake up. Won't you roll me over the edge? Can't get you out of my head.
I just want to start out by digging into some history. What got you into music? Was there a song, a band? Did somebody buy you an instrument? What happened?
When I was little, I want to say around 2 years old, my parents noticed that I liked to beat on pots and pans, other various items around the house, so they got me a drum kit. And I started drumming from like the age of 2, so started real young, and went from that, got into a whole bunch of other instruments as I grew up. Started playing guitar and writing songs around like 10, and picked up keys. Then I started developing my voice because I knew I wanted to be a singer, which is weird going from like being a drummer as a kid to wanting to be a singer. But that's what I always dreamed of doing, I guess. That's how I ended up there. But yeah, I started developing my voice later on, probably closer to like 16, and then yeah, decided I was gonna do the thing for real. So
Okay. Were you involved in any bands or anything, or did you just do it for yourself?
I had a bunch of like little bands growing up that I just kind of formed on my own with my friends, and it was always for me. I always knew like I wanted to do it. No one else was really that serious about it, but I'm glad it turned into what it turned into because it's a lot easier to make a thing happen that I envision versus a collective uh, situation, I guess, in the band sense.
And with learning all those instruments, I think that probably helped with when you got around to starting to produce and stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I never really realized that producing would become a passion because when I started recording songs, I always just figured like that was somebody else's job. There's reason they exist. It's true. That is true. And I still find that today. Um, where I do believe there's a time and a place for a producer, but I was never super satisfied with anything I'd recorded. And that leaned more on me than anybody else because I'm the person that's supposed to define what I'm trying to make. A producer's only going to be able to do as good of a job as they can do with what you bring to the table. And my demos were never uh, quite to the place that I wanted them to be, or maybe good enough to describe what I was going for. So I never really felt like I ended up pulling off what I wanted to pull off. So I started getting into production through that, self-producing, and using all the elements of everything that I do. It's funny because you might be able to play all those instruments, but it doesn't mean you're going to be a good producer by any means. Producing is an art of its own. It's a craft of its own. And just because I can play drums and a piano and a guitar at the same time. Well, not at the same time. There's a guy that can do that. Not me. Definitely not me. Yeah. Production's a whole entire art of its own. So that's been a whole entire learning curve itself, trying to figure out how to be good at that. But it helps.
Like, as a producer, when do you know when a song is finished?
I'm a perfectionist, so I have a lot of trouble finishing just about anything on my own. And that's a good reason to go to an outside source to have someone else produce your music. I think what a strength of mine now with that whole issue of perfectionism is I can get a demo idea to a pretty solid place of, all right, this is what I'm going for. And what helps me from that point is then, taking that off to friends or collaborators, people that can help me push through to the end, because that's my struggle. I get too caught up in the little stuff and start to overanalyze the whole thing and think, oh, that drum sound's not good enough, or that bass part's not good enough, or I need to redo that vocal because there's a dog barking in the background. Like, who knows? But I've got some pretty good collaborators. Cajon Concept, Ben from Cajon Concept is probably my closest collaborator. We're always working on each other's music, but he's a very good example of a person that knows when to move on. He's totally, for the most part, a self-produced guy, and that is pretty mind-blowing to me that he's got the discipline down to be able to pull the trigger when it's time to move on. It's a hard thing for me.
Yeah, like when you and Ben get together, it's good that you got, you're creative and stuff, and you could bounce ideas off of each other and say, okay, maybe we should take this extra layer out of there and strip it down a little bit more.
Yeah, he's great at that, and he seems like a peer, but he's very much a mentor to me. Someone that I get to learn from and look up to, because he's constantly challenging me and constantly teaching me. So I really adore that relationship because of that. He's great at that. I put out a song, Outta My Head, back in April. I went and recorded that song. That's a good example of everything we're talking about. I had a very fleshed out demo idea of what this song was, a pretty well produced demo. I had a friend out in Michigan. His name's Caleb Aldrich. It's weird when you get two Calebs together. It gets real confusing. But we recorded the song together. He has a studio, and he's really good at engineering and getting a lot of clientele for production, stuff like that. So we did that together. And after we had the finished production, Ben and I went through and picked apart the arrangement and took out parts that didn't need to be there and added parts in that were missing. And he's very, very good at having an ear for basically building dynamic through a song. So rather than having 14 acoustic guitars going on from the top of the track, he figured out how to make it 2 and then 14 by the end. So it's real good.
Let's talk a little bit about Out of My Head. There's a really cool guitar solo in there too, and you have this da 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 part, and you bring it back in. You have it kind of like at the beginning of the song, but you bring it back in underneath the chorus. Can you tell me a little bit about, was that something you had in mind doing, or did you say, okay, we're not going to keep the chorus at the beginning, but the da 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 part, you know?
Man, I gotta say, Randy, this is like the most exciting music conversation I think I've maybe ever had, because these questions are really interesting. Like, this is cool. That song I wrote all the way back in 2019, I think. So that song took a real long time for me to feel right about, which is funny because a lot of people that heard it back then were like, "Oh, you got to put this out, man. This is good." I'm like, "No, I don't know." But it, for me, writing a song, Out of My Head's a great example of how I write most of my songs. It usually starts with me sitting down with my voice notes on my phone, and I have an idea in mind that's sort of picking at my brain. It's poking me. Something that shows up and feels convicting. I'll sit down and start to record it. I think a lot of people do that, and a lot of artists know the curse of never returning to those voice notes. You got thousands of them piled in there. This one, the ones that stick are the ones that just keep on poking you, I guess. And this was one of them. The song started off very different than it turned out. Once I started fleshing it out, it turned into lyrics and a melody and just me on an acoustic guitar. And I think when I first started making that demo, that lead line was just there. Like it was just there. I didn't have to really go searching for it. And I had that in from the start. That part. And then at the time, I was a really big fan of Harry Styles. Still am. No, that never went away, really. He was putting out the Fine Line album right around that time. And it was really weird because not only had I written Out of My Head, I'd written Pour Over, older song that I have called Forgiveness, that were in my mind very, very developed and very thought through. And he put that album out, and I was like, holy cow, like these songs literally sound like 3 particular songs on that album. I'm like, how did that happen? So it was a blessing and a curse, because that album was huge, and then it became a big inspiration for me getting these songs across the finish line production wise. Golden was a good reference for Out of My Head, and so I stole a lot of stuff from that. And when you go and put the two side by side, you'll see it, and then you'll go, wow, what a ripoff. But yeah, for the most part, that was a lot of what inspired a lot of production ideas on that. I have still background vocals that are going ba-da, 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 way through the song. The guitar solo actually was a moment in the song that was inspired by Wild Love by James Bay. If you've heard that song, he has a really cool guitar solo partway through the song. And as I was writing Out of My Head, I was like, oh, I want to try something like that. Just throw a crazy guitar solo in here. And it's not necessarily crazy, but it got the point across. And I really like how all those things turned out. It all kind of works together.
Yeah, and the song is memorable. Like you could that's probably why you kept on coming back to it, cuz that part is still in your head going around, you know?
Couldn't get it out of my head. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's how a lot of the ones that tend to make it across the finish line are. They just won't stop nagging me, so got to get it done.
I wanted to talk a little bit about like some of your musical influences.
Early on, I was very very much closed off to music as a whole. I grew up in church, and CCM was basically all I was aware of. I didn't know that there was a classic rock or metal or jazz or really anything besides Jesus music. So, uh, starting off, my favorite band, the earliest I can think back to is a band called Third Day, and it's funny. Right now, I'm in this period of time where I'm like sort of looking back through my life and returning to all these bands that influenced me when I was younger. So I've been listening to a lot of Third Day lately, which is funny, but it's it's fun to see how those bands that I connected with back then now remind me of bands that I listen to today, because they were being influenced by all these bands that I listen to today. Third Day was very much southern rock, rootsy kind of thing. They have a lot of Stones influence to me. They have like 2000s. I'm gonna meet U2 and the Rolling Stones right in the middle, and like, and the vocalist has this like real southern rock voice. So it's cool because I loved that band, and now today some of my favorite bands are the Stones and U2, the Killers, Coldplay, Harry Styles, like all these kind of iconic rock acts. And it's funny how the music I grew up on definitely all took influence from from the bands that I listen to today in a lot of ways. They were one of them. Switchfoot was a band I got into in high school, and they're very Coldplay, U2, rock focused, and they crafted a lot of my. They shaped a lot of what I know today subconsciously. It's something that I don't really ever think about. It's just kind of just like lives in me, and I always find myself making decisions that I feel like they probably would have made when I look back at it. I'm like, oh, it feels like something Switchfoot would have done. Whatever. That was another big one. When I turned 18, graduated high school, I ended up going out on the road playing drums for a band, basically right out of high school. And that was like the first time I really got introduced to music outside of my bubble. And the Killers were one of the first bands that I found that I like. It was like when I heard Battleborn, their album Battleborn. When I heard it for the first time, I literally thought to myself, "Wow, I always imagined that music could sound like that." I'd always imagined that like there was music out there that was like that, and I thought I was going to be the first guy to make it. And then I realized, oh no, there's so many bands out here that are making music that I want to make. I just didn't know about it. The Killers became my favorite band for years after that. I listened to them up and down, side to side, and now I know probably every single one of their songs like the back of my hand. they they were probably my biggest deep dive in terms of influence. And I think a lot of the music that I have out today uh, can kind of point to them in some way or another. All the songs I have out definitely were they were referenced 100% for sure. There's no doubt about it.
I was just thinking, like, that's like wild how you were like closed off from a lot of things in your life.
Oh yeah, it's I think it's just part of growing up in small town America and growing up in a Christian family. Like uh, maybe particularly in the 2000s where I was raised to kind of think that everything outside of CCM radio is secular and probably not appropriate. But as you get older, you realize that things are different, and it's probably not the case. And you know, grow your own worldview.
Yeah, like you get out and experience stuff in different places and different areas, and you're like, this ain't that bad, you know?
No, yeah. It's not like the Killers are singing about sex, drugs, and rock and roll or anything like that. But maybe a little bit. We'll see what happens. But it's pretty cool. They were eye opening to storytelling music, which is something that I never uh, really had a great scope on. So the fact that you can be a storyteller in writing a song, the way Killers are Bruce Springsteen, any of the great writers of Stones, like all of them. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's like you're setting like an image in somebody's head of like a little story that's like 3 or 4 minutes long, you know?
Yep. Yeah, that's it. Which is funny because uh, in my songwriting process, I never really consider anything that I'm writing to be either A, true, or B, thought through. So uh, when I sit down with a pen and paper, I have no clue what's coming out, and I have no clue what any of it means. It just either winds up turning into a song or it doesn't. So it's weird. Weird to think about. It's also wild for me to think that like there are lyricists and writers out there that think through the things that they write, because I can't. Like, I don't know how to write a song about a specific subject.
Have you ever had writer's block?
Oh yeah, writer's block. I think I have a difficult concept of it because I don't really believe it exists. I think what people tend to do is convince themselves that there's something wrong with them, that they are unable to produce something out of themselves. What I found in any season of writer's block that I've had, really what it is and what it comes down to is just self-doubt and me and thinking that everything that I'm writing or everything that I'm creating is just bad. It's me allowing the editor to be there from the very beginning, which should never be the case, and it's something that I've wrestled with a lot. I consider the editor the part of your brain that's sitting there with you, telling you what's good and what's bad, your filter, whatever. And I don't think that tool. It's a tool. It's a tool that you have, really. I don't think you should allow yourself to use it until after you've created what you've created. Then you can go through and say, oh, I have a 6-minute long song. I don't need all this. And that verse makes no sense. And that lyric isn't even finished. Now I can go through and
like fine tune it.
yeah, exactly. Edit it. Go edit it then. That to me is what causes writer's block, because anytime I've shown up in the writer's chair in my seat to write a song, and I need to write a hit song today, or I need to write acoustic ballad today, or I need to make this, or I need to make that. Anytime I start with maybe, and this may just be for me because I feel like it works differently for everybody. Anytime I start with the editor sitting beside me, I can't do it. Like, I can't finish an idea. When I stop and I allow the moment to take control of itself and unfold on its own, I always end up with something that I look back at the next day or a week later and I go, wow, I really like that idea. So it's kind of crazy how it works.
Yeah, like the mood or the moment you're in, you should just let it go and see what comes out of it.
That's what I do a lot. It's what works for me, and I think that's the interesting part. Might not work for everybody else. Maybe everything I'm saying, someone else has tried it, and that causes them writer's block. I don't know. Couldn't tell you, but for me, I just feel like it's a myth.
Or it's something that holds you back from progressing,
Yeah. I think there's always a way to fight through it. There's always a way to find the other side.
I wanted to talk about Pour Over, your other song. It got a groovy, funky guitar like bass riff thing going on. You got some horns in it. At the beginning, it sounds like there's a mandolin in the song.
Oh, yeah. So the beginning is. So this is another one. It's Pour Over was a song I wrote like right before that Harry Styles album came out. I think the only song that had been out by that point was Lights Up. And that was like his first single on that album. It started out with these acoustic guitars that I think it's only one, but I loved it. It was just a very interesting vibe. I hadn't heard anything like it, and so I kind of tried to rip that off too. It's another one of those rip off things at the end of the day, which is stupid. But I had 2 acoustic guitars on there. One of them was tuned in a Nashville tuning. Nashville tuning is where you take all the normal strings on an acoustic, tune it up an octave, and then you get essentially the higher octave of what a 12-string guitar would do. So we had a normal acoustic, 6-string acoustic, and we also doubled it up with that Nashville tuned guitar, and that's what creates that effect that's almost mandolin like, which was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. That was another song that was interesting. I used to do, speaking of all this writing that we're talking about, I used to do a warm-up called object writing. And it's from this book. I think it's called Write Better Lyrics by Pat Pattinson. I believe that's the book. I think that's the author. He guy was a professor for writing songs, and this exercise is all about focusing on an object without giving away what the object is. So I made myself a pour over that morning, and then I sat down and started writing about the pour over that was in front of me. And obviously I ended up giving away what the object was through the process, because as soon as I started the first word, that entire song came out just like a poem, just like right there, right in front of me. All the lyrics, I really don't think I changed any of the lyrics, to be honest. Maybe a few. I think I had a friend look them over and we fixed a couple things, but yeah, I mean, it showed up to me right there. As soon as it did, I heard the melody in my head. I ran to my studio space and just made a demo of it right then and there real quick. And yeah, just like Out of My Head, a lot of like the meat and bones of the song just kind of show up in that moment without me really thinking about it. Like the bass part, the lead guitar part was there, the drum beat was there, like everything. And I think, yeah, that's where, like, looking back over it, that's why, again, I was like, holy cow, this is like crazy how much this aligns with that Harry Styles album unintentionally. And then I just go and steal production ideas from those songs because it already worked out. I'm like, this is stupid. But so I probably owe Harry Styles some money. Not that I've made any, because I haven't. So
it's bitter, but I love the taste. Something about the way it stains my skin. And you got all this energy swirling around, it burns in me, and I can't win. Will you get along with me? Just the two of us, we're sipping on each other. Baby, butter me up, filling up my cup till it pours over. Give me all your love, open up my eyes so I can see it. Dripping from my tongue, licking from my lips until they're numb. You pour from my cup.
Can you tell me a little bit about your writing style? Do you like come up with like a beat, or you start out on guitar, or do you have lyrics? How does it begin?
it's always the same thing. I had to think about it for a second. It's always the same thing. The nuances can be a little bit varied, and I'd say 99% of the time it's me with the guitar, and I start humming a melody and playing some chords and throw it into my voice recorder, and out comes an idea that then I go and work over and over until I figure it out and have a finished product. I think every once in a while I have those moments like pour over where I sit down and write a poem, and there it is. It started with the lyrics, But even in that instance, it wasn't. It was still a melody in my mind. And as I was writing it down, as I was writing through these words, I heard it sang to. I heard it coming out like it was being sung to me. So 99% of the time, it's me just showing up and messing around until I figure it out, which isn't very profound, but I used to be I back when I went through my writer's block, I had a desperation to understand how other artists wrote their songs and what was wrong with me, like why I couldn't figure it out. And a lot of what I heard other people say was, "Oh, you just show up and the muse is there. Show up and listen to the muse. Show up and just start writing, and then you just make a song." And I'm like, wow, you guys have nothing profound to say about this. You have no helpful advice for me right now. Like, how am I supposed to figure this out? It's like, I just don't really think there is a true way, at least for me. There just isn't. It's just you show up and you make something and you go until it's done. And then after it's done, you look at what you have and you go, all right, do I need to fix things about this? Or did the muse just arrive and give me something from up above, wherever it comes from? I don't know.
Yeah, like you were talking about asking these musicians like about what their formula or their blueprint is for like writing and stuff, you know. I think it's different for everyone probably.
Oh, certainly. I mean, if you look at, I think country music's a great example today of pop music, country music, pop music. There's formulas, there's ways to structure melody and uh, structure your song so that it feels like it fits into a stylistic environment. So if I sat down today with the intention of writing a pop song or something that feels like that, I would probably be 100% more inclined to do a better job with it today than I was 5 years ago. Uh, just because as you do it more and more, and as you pay attention more and more, your sensibilities grow in terms of being able to understand what music is or what people are doing. There's a lot of sadness involved in that with me, because the more I get to know music, the less magic it has to it. And I think that's the curse of being an artist, is you start to find the reality of what music is, and it's not so special anymore. I don't mean that it's not special, but like, once you understand like what a sound is that you're listening to, or maybe how to write a pop verse or chorus, all of a sudden the songs that you hear seem a lot more approachable and a lot less perfect than maybe you thought they were at one point. Which is a weird scenario. I really wish that I still had that part of me as a listener that could listen to a song and go, "Oh wow, that was a magical experience. That took me somewhere. That made me feel a certain type of way that music doesn't make me feel." It happens seldomly. It happens every once in a while for me, where it used to happen all the time. And that's like the one downside I think I've found as an artist, trying to make music, develop a formula, look at other people's formulas, decode it all, whatever. But there's still a lot of mystery involved in everything. It's just got more to do with me feeling like I have the skills or the skill set to pull off the mysteries, whatever those are. None of that made a lot of sense, I guess. It made sense to me, but yeah, I feel like to a normal listener that just heard any of that, don't know what to tell you. Don't know what to tell you. The artist is going to get it, hopefully.
Do you use a lot of effects in the studio?
Not as much as I wish I did. I think that's part of the studio experience that I want to be able to unlock or experiment with. That the mysteries that I was just talking about 30 seconds ago that had no explanation, that's one of them right there. Like using studio effects, automation, things that allow the listening experience, the sonic playground, to become something more interesting and grand. It happens all the time in your favorite songs, in my favorite songs, and it's the subtleties of making a song good versus great, or a production good versus great. I don't really think at the end of the day a great song has to have a great production, but I think a great production has a level of creativity that again comes from that place of just reaching for the muse, reaching for whatever's beyond. And I think a tool like effects is another one of those ways of expression, another one of those things that is an art like production or learning an instrument, any of that stuff.
Yeah, like you were saying earlier, when you took that country tune guitar and you laid it over with a regular standard tune guitar, it made a mandolin sound. You would have never knew that unless you did it. But those type of things change like the way the song's going too.
Yeah. I think what's interesting, I think what becomes interesting there is like that's a perfect example. You as a listener looking at that song, that guitar isn't quite as interesting or special to me, maybe because I know how it came to be. I know what it is, whereas you don't, and it's shrouded in mystery. It's like, wow, how did he make that? What did he use? Did an alien show up and like give him a special guitar? It's like, yeah, I don't know, but that's what I always used to think. I always used to think that like those perfect productions that I'd hear as a kid were just God entered the room and told him exactly what to do to make the perfect hit song, the perfect thing. So whatever it is, I think as you grow and your instincts get better, you learn to create the mystery. I strayed from your question because what I wanted to say there at the start was I find it really interesting when people start a song with a specific drum sound, and halfway through the song, they totally change the drum sound to a totally different vibe, and somehow it seamlessly integrates itself, fits together like a puzzle, and you're like, it's almost something you don't even think about. Well, I mean, for the listener, you wouldn't think about a lot of effects tricks or a lot of things that happen. You just realize that it's interesting, and you realize that what you're listening to as it develops continues to stay interesting. I think that's what makes a great production in a lot of ways.
And like when you're saying about the drums switching, it's all kind of like math and timing and stuff. It all works out, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's all art. Literally, it's all just art, and everybody that's a part of the process is playing a part in creating art. I think that's another really good reason why it's important to find people that you can collaborate well with, because they're going to be the people that add to the art versus taken away from it.
And they're also going to tell you the truth, like that sucked.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's my favorite. Start from the very beginning of a process. A lot of the times when I'm just starting a song idea, it's really easy for me to feel good about something that I'm working on, be excited about it, and then I've done it 1,000 times where I've have a song I'm real excited about, and I send it off to Ben or whoever else, and I'm like, hey, what do you think about this idea? And he's like, that's horrible. Don't ever listen to that again. Pretend you never wrote that. I'm like, oh, yeah, good point. All right, cool. But I think that all comes down to, like, there's sides to it. There's sides where you go, okay, do I agree? Can I see where they're coming from? Or am I going to continue to pursue what I'm working on right here because I like it? So there's always a balance, and I think I've been in many debates or arguments with other musicians that believe the art shouldn't be tarnished, and if you love it and that's why you're doing it, then you should just be able to express yourself however you want, even if what I objectively think that you're making is bad. If I think the song you're making is bad, and I let you know my opinion, whatever. Everybody has their own opinions, their own thoughts about it. I just tend to think that allowing other people's influence that you trust allows you to create better things than you would if you just trust your own instincts all the time.
Let's see. What do you have planned for the fall and winter?
I have another song coming out relatively soon. I don't have a date set yet. I went and did a new song with a friend of mine out in Michigan. Got a buddy named Jake Rye. He produced a lot of songs that I have out currently, and we did another song together over the summer. It's a real big rock and roll song, so I'm excited. Big guitar riff song. That's going to be coming out relatively soon. And this fall, I'm working on getting a project finished up. So finishing a few more songs, and hopefully before the summer of 2025, I'll have a full project out in the world for people to listen to.
You have any shows coming up?
Nothing particularly as of the moment, but working on some stuff. Hopefully we'll have something cool coming up soon.
Okay. Where can we get a hold of you? Facebook, Instagram?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok. Go to www.calebkopta.com. I don't know how you get a hold of me there, but probably find my email or something like that.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Thanks for coming on the show today. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
When did Music Roundtable begin?
2021, March 2021.
What was your new dream for creating the platform?
Well, at the beginning it was to do interviews. Now I just started my own radio station. I got a app for it on Android and iPhone, and I've been building a team of people to do different shows on there. So and then in like 2025, we're gonna have our own music roundtable shows in Pittsburgh with national and local artists.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's sweet. Yeah, that's cool. I just heard about a Music Roundtable. I think when you shared that video on YouTube, probably back in May. So that was like when I first started hearing about you. So that's cool. So this was sort of like a COVIDism in some ways. Way to start out through then. But yeah, I appreciate it. I'm glad you have me on, and it's pretty cool. I've seen you've had a whole bunch of other locals on, and it's been exciting to see this kind of thing happening in the Pittsburgh community.